Ontario's Waste Diversion Act requires all companies that introduce packing and printed material into Ontario's consumer marketplace to share in paying 50% of the funding of Ontario's municipal Blue Box waste diversion programs. In 2000, the Canadian Newspaper Association negotiated an agreement directly with the Ontario provincial government. Dailies and weeklies would be exempt from subsidizing the Blue Box program in cash. In lieu, they would provide in-cash advertising to promote waste diversion in Ontario. Being able to travel on the cheap also depends on your ability to think literally. You could decide that you want to spend a year visiting 5 neighboring countries in the developing world. That you'll wild camp or stay in the cheap of local hotels. That you'll bargain for food in the markets or cook basic meals for yourself. You may also abide to ban beer, bearing in mind that in many countries a beer costs the same as food for 3 meals. If your bike is in bad condition, doesn't consume a lot of gas and you are happy traveling jointly, then you could have a very low-priced adventure on 2 wheels. Travel is as expensive as you want to make it. With a good tent, sleeping bag and eagerness to engage all types of people, your travel costs can be minimal. Eagerness to engage people? How did that suddenly work its way in? Asking for places to put your tent up gives you projection, decreases your costs and gives you the chance to earn about where you are. Traveling on a large budget can actually be advantageous and offering experiences which can't be bought. Being able to travel on the cheap also depends on your ability to think literally. You could decide that you want to spend a year visiting 5 neighboring countries in the developing world. That you'll wild camp or stay in the cheap of local hotels. That you'll bargain for food in the markets or cook basic meals for yourself. You may also abide to ban beer, bearing in mind that in many countries a beer costs the same as food for 3 meals. If your bike is in bad condition, doesn't consume a lot of gas and you are happy traveling jointly, then you could have a very low-priced adventure on 2 wheels. Have you got kids? You know anyone who does? They're a lot of work, NGHT. Many people would tell you. Including me, it's a full-time job. Either you look after them, or you pay someone else to, it's around the clock. Now if you live in Australia, you have kids and you don't have an income, or you're on minimum wage. Give or take a few $100 a week, you're entitled to some money from Centrelink. It's called the parenting payment. And if you get it, you might have to sign up to something called Parents Next. Maybe you've heard of it. In terms of THC during the growing season, when the temperatures arc higher, and plants are picking up water from the soil, that the total moisture loss from top soil layers, actually on average is much greater than what comes down the rainfall. This is because the plants themselves take up so much moisture here and the high temperatures simply evaporate a lot of the water right off the surface of the soil before it has a chance to soak in. As a result, it's very difficult to recharge the deep soil and groundwater system during the growing season. So it's this short-term chasing window at the start of each weekday, where for 5 minutes the largest banks in Australia would trade these short-term links, these IOIA, and by trading them, they're kind of saying I'm willing to pay this internal rate, or I'm willing to buy this short-term loan for this price, which helps determine the interest rate. And then once that rate is set through that window, that is the rate for the day. In Russia, in Turkey, in Hungary, in a number of other places, authoritarian leaders or liberal Democrats are attacking universities because universities are free institutions. Once you've attacked a free press, once you've attacked the courts, what's your next attack point? It's going to be a university, so we see what's happening in Hungary as part of a much wider global pattern, and that's why I think it should be of concern to Australians. Well, it's a contested concept, and like many content concepts, I think you can identify an agreed upon core and then a sort of contested penumbra. I think that perhaps the agreed upon core might be this: it's something held at once by academia and by academic institutions, and it is something like a village of freedom in the way in which the conduct of teaching and research is overtaken. It was autumn last year, the night of March 31st, 2018. A full moon was lighting up the ocean and the surf was rolling in. A father called Min and his teenage son were fishing, off THC rocks at Windang Island, just south of Wollongong. It's a notoriously dangerous spot, with strong currents on either side of the island. Local surfers call it smack on. Some days waves get as big as 25 feet. At around 1 p.m. Thai night, something went terribly wrong.